You're listening to The Dating Den with dating and relationship badass and best-selling author Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important dating, sex, and relationship issues you want to know about. So if you're ready for true talk that's authentic and unfiltered, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
The Dating Den, episode 69, Coaching with Angela. Define emotionally available. Is he? Is she? What is it and how to be it to create connection in your relationships now? Ladies, welcome into my dating den today. I'm super happy to be here. I have a little, I sound like, for those of you who are old enough, remember Demi Moore back in General Hospital days, Jackie Templeton. That's what I sound like because I have that super sexy voice. And so just for that, I decided to invite Angela into the den so that we could have a conversation about how to know whether or not a man is emotionally available to be in a relationship, how to determine if she's ready to be in a relationship because she just got out of a breakup. And then my favorite question, which is, and by the way, how do you tell a guy I'm not interested in you so much? So that's what we're going to do today in the den. So Angela, welcome.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
It's gonna be crazy. Okay, so let's just jump right in here in the den. You recently got out of a relationship, and what I understand is that you had a long-ass, drawn-out breakup. But you've been ex-boyfriend free for 2 months. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, 2, 3, 4 months. Just depends on where you count the first breakup, I guess.
Where you mark it, exactly. And you were together for like 2 years. Was that like a pretty steady 2 years, or was there a lot of breakups in that?
It was pretty steady. I mean, there were definitely ups and downs to it. But no, it was pretty steady, and it was a serious relationship, I think, from the get-go. So.
And then you were long distance, so then you moved to be closer to him, and then it kind of blew up from there, huh?
That's right.
Okay, yep. Bummer. But the good news is, you're kind of over it for the most part, and you said that you're even like have somebody else who's kind of new in your life.
Yeah, so, I mean, I had taken a couple of months to really just kind of take it easy, hang out with my girlfriends, and try and reflect, and then started dating online about 3-4 weeks ago. And I've met a lot of different people, and there's one that I do like, so just trying to figure that part out.
So I'm curious, so what about him is having you question, is he emotionally available?
Well, I think it's my own patterns from the past that I can definitely see now that I've picked people who have not been emotionally available. And I just want to make sure moving forward that that's something that I break and that I'm really cognizant about and really looking to make sure that they're going to be able to be emotionally available.
Okay, that's awesome. So I was talking to someone the other day, actually, it was really interesting. And I said something about, you attract men that are emotionally available. She totally didn't know what I meant by that. She said something like, no, they're totally available. I mean, they live near me. They talk, blah, blah, blah. So for you, like, how do you define, like, a guy who is not available emotionally? Like, what does that look like in the way he shows up in the relationship?
To me, it has looked like somebody who they might even be to some extent vulnerable, but not fully vulnerable as far as being able to talk about all topics easily or being willing to kind of reflect through some things together or even individually, being able to just be open to, I guess, everything that a relationship entails. So... yeah, I guess maybe that's it. Just being more in touch with themselves and moving forward, just everything that the relationship's going to take.
So let me sort of expand on that because I think that's super. Those are some really good clues. But I want to also ask you about just like an ability to progress the relationship, to commit to the relationship, to be able to work through problems, to be able to really stay in it when the resources of the relationship feel really small, and to be able to use their own strength and the strength of their partner to kind of, connect and reconnect and get back to compatibility. So when you think about those elements of the men that you dated in your past, were those sort of also missing?
Yeah, especially, I guess, just, I guess in this last one, I thought that we had enough resources in our relationship to really try and work through those things. But I guess at the end of the day, either he didn't want to, or he just never was capable. He wasn't emotionally available.
Right. And I think that that's a really important piece. And that's why I kind of asked you, where people get really confused, is because here's the thing. The way our brain works is that if and this is now, you got not just you, but you got, whoever it is that you are trying to connect with and have intimacy with, emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, all of it. If your brain is stuck in like hypervigilance, like fear, protection, fight, flight, freeze, and you get stuck in that loop whenever there's a stressor. And stressors in relationship can be anything from something huge like, oh my God, this woman is moving to my town, right? To the argument that we have like every single Friday about where should we go to dinner, to like, managing ex-wives, ex-lovers, partners, work, right? Like life is a giant stressor. So if two partners are both in hypervigilance, fight, flight, or fright mode all the time, they don't have the resilience and the resourcefulness themselves to then actually get back to compatibility. So it sounds like when you say, I thought we had it, but then when stressors happened, you guys could never get back.
Right. Yeah. And I think, looking back, I know I definitely had my stressors and things that I was completely being hypervigilant about. And I could probably name those, but I guess I thought he was a little bit more stable than I was, and I don't think that was the case, really.
Well, that's sort of the most brilliant thing about all of this, because I think that you said it when we were talking off there, but look, ladies, look, Angela, if you have a pattern of attracting unavailable men, that's usually a huge sign that one is not emotionally available themselves. Does that make sense?
Right. So then because I've been in therapy, and I'm still in therapy, how do I figure out, is that me or is that a them problem, right?
Well, that's so awesome. So here's the thing. You said it, and you said I could even name them, right? Like there's these fears. And you said, I know that in your interview before the call with our producer, you said, I have come from an alcoholic family. There's a whole lot of other things that happened since then. I have a general lack of trust myself, trust other people. So tell me about that. Like when you say, I was hypervigilant, I had my guard up. What did that look like for you?
Well, I can say with the last month with dating, I'm super hypervigilant about drinking, and how much a man drinks. And, a lot of people have exited the dating pool because I will not tolerate somebody who appears to drink frequently or drink more than, let's say, 3 or 4 drinks at a time. Like that's something that's easy for me, and I'm okay with that one. But I think even like phone usage, like when I'm with my partner or whoever I'm dating and like they're on their phone and I've gotten to know this person, let's say 4, 5, 6 dates at this point, and I'm feeling stressed when they're on their phone. Even if it doesn't seem to be like that big of a thing, who knows? They could be talking to their friend, but that gets me stressed out. And then it's like, okay, well, I know that I have a problem with this. This is not necessarily him. But then how do I move forward from that, or kind of like let that go? And then I guess just general trust about this person having my best interest at heart, and that this relationship is going to go somewhere and they're not just, I guess, using me or playing me.
Okay. This is so incredibly powerful. Your homework is you're going to listen to this podcast like 5 times when it airs, because if you listen back there, you just named like 4 or 5 things where you have what we call your love shield up, right? You're like guarding your heart. And at the core of it, what popped out in all of those for me is there's some notion of when you were little or when you were growing up that you didn't feel important, that you didn't feel cared for, that you didn't feel safe. And so when someone else is engaging in a behavior that feels like I'm not important, I'm not safe, your little love shield goes up. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's totally it.
Okay. So let's just use the phone thing, because I think that like every single woman and man really actually we can relate to that, because even if you're not a jealous person, right? You're sitting there and you're watching TV and the person you're with is like totally touching their phone all the time, looking at their phone all the time. So for you, when that gets triggered, where do you feel it in your body?
I generally feel stress in my chest or in my stomach.
Okay. And if you think about how you feel in that moment, like where from your past does it take you back to? Like what was a moment where you felt that in your body before when you were younger?
Probably during my parents' divorce and just like the whole my mom leaving process.
Okay. And was there like a moment actually where you have like there's like an imprint of, you know, this happened and it feels like every time I get ignored or every time I get triggered, it just takes me back to that feeling. Is there like one moment or is it general?
I think there's a time where we were talking to my dad on the phone and he was, who knows where he was. But I just remember talking to him and, you know, obviously feeling like he was so distant and just feeling like he's never going to be there. And I mean, that was the case. Like he wasn't going to be able to be there.
And so at that moment, if you were going to say like the belief that got created, what would that look like about yourself, about being lovable, about being important? What strikes a chord for you in that?
Just that I guess I wasn't important or not like important enough, I guess, for him to come back or for him to get it together or for him to make my brothers or I a priority. Yeah.
Okay. So here's what's really powerful. So every time then when you're dating someone, when you're in a relationship with someone, that little girl had to like totally power through that moment. Right? So if dad isn't making me important, what's the lesson that you learned? Like, how did you get through that? How did you survive? What was the lesson you took away about what you need to do?
That I got to take care of it myself. I'm just going to survival mode, really. Like, I don't think, obviously, when I was a kid, I knew what was going on, but, you know, you just kind of keep going and stuff it and keep it moving.
Exactly. Okay. So that lesson is a foundation principle, right? That was at the kind of the heart of the love shield that caused you to take on a bunch of roles and behaviors in your life, right? Like, I bet you're the person who always gets shit done. You take care of things. Yeah. Yep. Right. Like, you're really productive. You get a lot done.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Right. So what happens is we take this role on, and then did you feel like you and your brothers were like had to be there for your mom?
You know, recently my therapist connected that role part of me being a caregiver to my brothers during that time as like pretty common theme of what's been going on, and I think that that's true. I don't know if I'd say it was so much for her, like having to caregive to her, but it was like being able to, I made dinner for my brothers or, you know, making sure that things were right at the house. In that sense, I guess I was kind of like taking care of my mom.
Totally. So here's what and there's actually like a term for that. You become, and even though you're the same sex, it's like a surrogate spouse, right? So Angela, you become like the partner with your mom. You're like, I'm going to feed the boys. You're working. I'm going to make sure, right? So you get really, really super self-reliant. You take on those roles. And then you get in a relationship and your hypervigilance, right? Your radar is always on to make sure that shit's getting done,
Yeah.
Right? Because you're afraid the other shoe's going to drop. And so when your boyfriend or someone you're dating is on the phone, it's like a direct hit. It takes you way back. And the lesson I get is, I'm not important. I need to take care of shit myself. He touches the phone, you pull away.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's a couple of things that need to happen. And that's what's causing you to be emotionally unavailable. Because so that's familiar, right? So if you listen to podcasts with interviews with Dr. Gardner, this is, typical, right? In that you then recreate these same relationships over and over again. Because here's what's awesome about dating men who are emotionally unavailable. There's a part of you, that hypervigilant part, that knowing, that intuition, he's not safe. So you never have to really go all in, really let it all out, really trust this person. And then you get to stay in your little box of safety.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a question mark in your voice there. Well, tell me what resonates for you in that.
I mean, I think, especially with the long distance one, I can definitely see how the entire relationship, I was able to be at a distance in a lot of ways, right? Emotionally, and then just, geographically, the distance, it is what it is, right? So then, now that I'm dating here, I'm really trying to figure out how is that manifesting at this moment, and is that the case? Is he the emotionally unavailable, or is it just me? And then how do I
change it,
step out of that?
Yeah. So let's talk about the guy you're dating right now. How many dates have you gone out with him, or how long have you been together?
We've gone out on maybe 5, 6, 7 dates.
Okay. So you wouldn't be asking the question if there weren't some things going on that were causing you to be curious about him not being available emotionally. So what's some of the stuff that you're seeing?
There really, for him, there really isn't anything that I'm really questioning at this point. I think one of the things that drew me to him is that he's been very interested in getting to know who I am, from when I was a child all the way up through now. He's been very inquisitive, very communicative. But I think you're right I don't feel like the hypervigilance has dropped from my side. And that's a problem to me. That's something that I want to fix.
Okay. So, and there's no part of you, not even a shred, that is feeling, and it might be there's nothing, but is there any sort of thing that you're any pink flags, any concerns at all so far, or else is it lining up?
It's lining up well. I think the only thing that time will tell with is if I can accept his level of sociability and him enjoying time with his friends, and just getting out and meeting new people, because it seems like he's fairly introverted and just kind of likes to hang out by himself, and that's fine. But let's say if we would move somewhere, or who knows, down the line, would that be something that he'd be able to navigate on his own, or would he be reliant on me to kind of establish new relationships, new friendships, and I'm not sure I want that.
So in some ways it's almost like it triggers that thing of I already have these brothers I had to take care of. I don't want to have to take care of you too.
Yeah. My last relationship, he was so great at he had a very solid friend group. They did a lot of fun things. It was awesome. And I really liked that about him. He, could handle his own if we went to a party or what have you. Whereas new guy, it's kind of he'd be okay, having to make small talk maybe for 5 minutes, but then he probably wouldn't be super comfortable.
And then do you feel does that make you feel uncomfortable? You need to?
Yeah, then I feel bad. Well, he's not enjoying himself, so let's go. Or, like, I guess to some extent, I guess I'd feel responsible that he didn't have a good time, maybe.
Well, right. Okay. So if you're keeping a list of things Angela needs to work on, right? It's number one is making sure that you don't overtake responsibility for other people. And one thing to really remember for you and everyone else is, it's crazy how hard it is, but when we're dating someone, but if we remember, before this guy met us, he's a grown-ass man out in the world with a job, right? With the social networks that he had to do for his career, with friends, sports or not. Like, he had to be able to function in society and maintain social relationships. Maybe not his favorite thing, but he's had to do it and he functioned. If he couldn't function, then that's not a person that you can be with.
Yeah.
Right? So your job is to remove yourself from making his comfortability in social situations your responsibility.
Okay.
It's going to make you feel so uncomfortable because you're used to taking care of stuff.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, so what that would look like then is like me just kind of, all right, I'll see you at the end of the night, and really trying to not focus on that or think about it.
Or having like a grown-up conversation and saying, look, I know parties, my understanding or my experience of you is that parties aren't your favorite thing. I'm a super social person. I like to flit around and sometimes I'm the girl who's like, I'll see you at the end. But I don't want to totally ignore you. So what do you need in terms of us showing up here as a couple? What would you prefer? What are your needs?
Okay.
And then he says, oh, just come over every once in a while and give me a kiss, sit on my lap, whatever it is, give me a hug. Or he's like, no, I'm totally fine. You do you.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's like looking at you, number one, to say that, you're going to be vulnerable. So this is your first like emotional intimacy, emotional availability conversation.
Okay.
Right?
That's fine. Yeah.
You might even say, like, in the past, I was the person who wanted to make sure everybody was happy. And then I'm out, like, talking to people, but then I'm worried about you. But you're, like, a grown man, and I totally respect you. So, we're practicing and learning how to be a couple here, getting to know each other. So, like, what works for you? And I'll tell you what works for me, and we'll figure it out.
Okay.
So that's number one. And then what's cool about that is then how that person responds is a great opportunity to sort of collect data about how he problem solves, how he manages moments like that. Is he comfortable? If he just says, no, I'm totally fine, and you go off and do you, and then at the end of the night he's kind of resentful and pissed, then he's not taking care of his needs, and that's a concern.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you want someone who can connect into what do I need? How can I ask for it? Right? That's an emotionally available guy. The guy who just goes, no, whatever you want, I'm good all the time. He's not meeting his own needs, and he will ultimately crash, which is not what you want, right? You need someone who has that emotional resource.
So someone who can definitely identify and name their needs without prompting, let's say.
Well, no, you ask, and they can respond.
Okay.
So that's number one. So for you, number two, when you feel that moment in your body where you feel like, oh my God, I feel like I'm not important, you have to assess whether or not this is a story that you're making up or whether it's a need that you haven't expressed. Right? So it's the same thing. So what makes me feel connected to you, I'm feeling disconnected. What makes me feel connected to you is that when we're at dinner, when we're watching TV, when we're blah, 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 that we both agree to not be on our phones.
I mean, yeah, I don't have a problem like asking for that, but I think there's some things that it would be too much for me to ask. Like, let's say, I don't feel comfortable with you being on your phone when we watch TV. Well, like, that's not regular life, though. Like, at some point, we'll probably get to that place. So it seems like rule bound to me. Like, I don't know. And I guess in the future, I could change my opinion and then say, okay, whatever, I feel comfortable now. I don't know. It just like, if I'm going to say something, then I feel like I have to stick to it, right?
Well, no, because it's a fluid and flexible relationship is fluid and flexible. One time you might feel super connected because you just did this really fun activity and you guys come in and then you're just hanging out and you're like watching sports, because you guys have been together all day and you don't feel triggered. Versus another day, maybe it's a work day and you were at work and he was at work and it was really hectic and really rushed and you barely connected and you're sitting down and all of a sudden he's on his phone and you're like, wait, I feel totally disconnected.
Yeah.
Right. So
then
your job is just like I said for the man, right, to be emotionally available. It's for you to be like, what do I need right now? And it doesn't mean like for the whole night. It might mean for 10 minutes. Your love language might be physical affection and you just need him to like put his hand on yours and like you just need to feel connected. But what's happening is that something is making you feel not important. Not loved, right? And so it's your job to say this, I'm getting triggered, take responsibility for it and really get clear on what do I need. It might not be that you need him to put his phone down. It might that you need to just to like have a 5-minute conversation and feel connected.
Okay. All right.
But for you to be emotionally available, it's not about like feeling that, squishing it down, because my concern is when you're like, well, that's a rule and I don't want to say that. And there are no rules.
Yeah.
And your needs are really super important. And the more that you recognize them and you ask for them, even if they sound crazy, right, then you're going to become more emotionally available and be able to create connection. Because that little girl was like, well, I guess it's too much to ask for him to come back. I guess it's too much, for me to ask mom to like make dinner for me. It's too much to ask, right? Like your default is going to be like, well, I don't want to be a bother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So your needs matter. So emotional availability, like we'll just do like one, we're going to break it into a small piece to answer your question, right? Is can you connect to when you're feeling triggered and that you know that it's about you, that you can notice what you're feeling, that you can figure out what you need and that you can ask for it in a loving way that's not, defensive, blaming, or critical?
Well, I mean, it's definitely something I can work on.
Yeah. It's your practice. Why do you say that with like a question mark?
I think it's one of those things where it's like I feel frozen a lot of the time. And it's like I don't know what to think about it when it's happening. And then it's almost like overwhelming. And I don't know. It's too much in the moment.
Totally.
And then it feels like the timing's bad to kind of like talk about something that maybe happened like 5 minutes ago.
Well, there is no bad timing. Right? You can always do a revisit because that's having emotional availability is like saying like, I need to share or when's a good time for us to talk. So here's what I want you to do, Angela. Number one is, and it'll take place in phases, is recognizing that feeling coming up. And from now on, you're going to like, oh my God, this is the I'm not important gremlin. It's here, right? And what's happening is the reason why you freeze or get overwhelmed or shut down is because that hypervigilance sets off a chemical reaction where adrenaline and cortisol goes through your body. Your body can't actually sustain that much. So it literally like shuts it down. You numb out, you disconnect because it literally can't sustain. It can't sustain it. Your body is like the litmus test, right? So you need to get your prefrontal cortex back online. You need to shut that system down. The best way to do it is through breath.
Okay.
So if you notice the feeling, step 2 is like go to the restroom, go upstairs, go take 2 minutes and do what Brene Brown calls box breathing. And I recommend that you put your hand on your heart. And I want you to just take like 4 breaths where you count in for 4, hold it for 4, exhale for 4, hold it for 4. I want you to do that 4 times. You're going to feel like your whole body shift. And then invite yourself to ask the question, what's really going on here?
Okay.
And you might even want to just write that on a Post-it note or a piece of paper and like literally like put it in your drawer in your bathroom, put it in your purse, put it in your back pocket, like stick it in your phone case.
Okay.
And start to ask those high quality questions. What do I need? What am I feeling? and then be able to express it. And maybe that moment isn't exactly it, but maybe like an hour later, you're like, when we were watching TV, I realized that you're on your phone. It totally triggered this thing from childhood where I don't feel important. And here's what happened for me. If you can do that, then you're beginning to become emotionally available.
Okay. I guess I'm afraid that some of the things that I feel like I'm going to come up with are going to be crazy, which is just going to be like a total turn off. Does that make sense?
What's crazy?
Like, let's say, when you were on your phone, it triggered me and it really reminded me of this, that, like happened when I was a kid. And that's, I guess like I assume that to whoever I'm dating, they're going to be like, you're weird. And like, I can't handle that. And that's the end of it.
Well, here's the thing. The thing is this, that a guy that's at the certain level that you're in a relationship with, like if you're hanging out with someone and you're watching TV, and you've gone on 7 or 8 dates, or you've been dating for 2 months, especially when you said he's wanting to get to know you, right? Part of feeling emotionally safe is being able to show who you really are and somebody accepting you. That's true unconditional acceptance and love. So the missing piece for you to start working on is having that unwavering confidence in who you are. Now, are you going to say that on your second date? No, you don't even have to say it reminded me of childhood. You can just say, I know that sometimes I react and I feel like not important. It doesn't matter where it comes from, but that was it. So I feel disconnected when that happens. So here's what I need. That is not weird. In grown-up land, that's a healthy, intimate relationship.
Okay.
So
that's good to know.
Yeah, because you have a lot of judgments on yourself. That's weird. That's too much. But remember, that goes back to Angela. She had to fit in the little box, not bother anybody, take care of everyone else. Everyone else's needs are most important. I got to be a good girl or you're not going to like me, you're going to leave me. You can't be a little girl in a grown-up relationship. And that's how you've been moving through.
Yeah.
You got to grow your ass up, girl.
I'll work on it.
Totally. But just start to note, like, if you could just be aware of this shit right now and just be like, oh my God, this is totally what's going on. Take that breath and be like, how would a grown-up do this, right? I'm not the little girl. We're not on the phone. Dad's not coming back. That's not happening right now.
Yeah.
I'm in this room. One of my favorite tools we teach to our clients is color object. It's like chair blue, table white, bottle red. And you just totally like, okay, I got triggered and it felt like that, but here I am in this room. So what? And then you pull that little piece of paper out and you go, okay, Angela, what's really going on? Mm-hmm. What's really going on? What am I feeling? What do I need? And then you say it. That is how you become. That's the dummy's guide to how do I become emotionally unavailable in 4 easy steps.
Okay.
So what's your takeaway from our conversation as we kind of wrap it up?
Oh, man. I feel like, a couple big takeaways about just what a real relationship is going to look like, and what that's going to require of me. I think recognizing that, like, he was a full person before we got together and, like, he can handle his own. Like, that's a good reminder. Like, obviously that was the case, but, like, I don't have to take responsibility for everything that he can navigate on his own. And I think just really being aware of all of those little times that I feel like I'm uncomfortable for some reason and really trying to dig into it is only going to help me. I mean, it's going to be tough, but I think, if I keep going how I'm going, like, that's not fun either. So.
Totally, right? Because if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect to get a different result, that little saying, that's the definition.
It's insanity.
Right. So your job is to actually deal with those uncomfortable questions, have those harder conversations. That's actually what creates connection. If a guy's like, you're weird, be like, great, here's the door. Like, you don't want that guy.
Yeah.
You want a guy who's like, oh my God, baby, thank you for sharing that with me. I totally want to be connected to you. I didn't know it affected you that way.
Yeah.
Yay, Angela.
Yay.
I'm so happy for you. So keep us posted and let us know how it goes, because we always like to follow up with our ladies in the dating den.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome sauce. So for those of you who follow and listen along regularly, we have a little update. We want to let you know that Dorothy, and I think she's like episode 16, came in, worked with us. She is now happily in an amazing relationship. So we always like to follow through with our ladies who are on the show. And we are always looking for ladies who want to come on the show and get some coaching and be courageous like Angela and Dorothy and Julie and all the other incredible women that come in. And if you're curious about how we can put you through the Marni car wash and magically delicious you into irresistibility, you can always reach out in the show notes. Ladies, don't forget, every damn day, you don't have to take care of other people. Nothing is weird. You are amazing, lovable, and perfectly perfect the way you are. So don't forget, date with some damn dignity. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.